Hey, it's the Direct Response Podcast. I'm your host, Travis Ketchum, founder of Campaigner Refinery, joined today by David Cartolano of Wealthy Inbox. What's up, man?
Hey, I'm good, man.
So, do you remember a while back we've had a couple different episodes about Bimmy
Yes.
and making your little logo show up on
Mm-hmm.
Gmail and getting the verified check mark, and how Amazon broke the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and it takes a year now to get a patent or a trademark rather to be able to even get all the things you need for Bimmy? Well, you know who's one of the biggest mail clients on the face of the planet? Apple and Apple Mail. And the Apple, at least in the more developed countries, I'm not trying to be derogatory here, but like the wealthier
Yeah.
countries, Apple tends to be a predominant player because even if you aren't using, an iCloud email address, Apple Mail is the interface that a lot of Apple users use to access their Gmail or Yahoo, whatever else, right? And while Bimmy is supported when you have a VMC, Apple is actually doing everyone a huge favor here. They're moving towards Apple Business Connect. Now, this is sort of a unified experience to get a very similar outcome as Bimmy, but across all the various Apple properties. So, if you want to get a logo to show up when you send in Apple Mail, if you want to customize the branded experience when someone uses Apple Pay at your physical brick and mortar, if they find you on Apple Maps or any other Apple services, but we're going to keep in our lane of Apple Mail here because we're usually focused on email. You can go to Apple Business Connect, which we have all the information in the blog post down below, and you can actually apply to generate a brand, which then gets manually approved, usually in 5 to 10 business days. And then once you have a brand approved, you can add your sending domain and get that approved in 5 to 10 business days. So instead of waiting a year, and instead of paying $1,500 a year on top of that time wait to get the little blue check mark instead of Gmail, which I actually think you should still do because of the way things are going and the way the wind is blowing. But if you want to get there quickly for one of your more important properties, being Apple Mail, you can do that in about 2 weeks. So you go over to Apple Business Connect, you register for your brand, you get it approved, register your domain as a sender, get it approved, as long as you have basically one image, a real description, and you can add a TXT file to your domain, and you can wait 2 weeks, you can get a logo. How's that for cool?
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And it sounds cool. And I think the question that I do want to ask, I love playing devil's advocate on new features and things like that. And I ask the question, why should I care? Why should any business care? Small, medium, large enterprise. So, break it down, man. Like what is the benefit to spending even 5 minutes listening to a podcast about this kind of thing?
Yeah, well, so at the end of the day, your brand is the way people perceive you. It's the way they recognize you. Humans are very good at image recognition, even above text recognition. So having a consistent themed brand is absolutely helpful in people understanding who the sender is from so that their trust level when they read the next words right next to that image and deciding if they're going to open your email or not is, oh, that's a brand I hopefully know, like, and trust, right? So the image makes a big difference there. The second component is iOS and iPadOS 18.2 and anything coming after 18.2, because the new version of Mail on those platforms specifically essentially collates recent messages from brands, and there's sort of like a brand center of sender information. And so when someone's in one of the categorized promotions, newsletters, subfolders that's AI sorted and generated, and they tap on your brand, they will see potentially either a raw, unedited, like letter-based version of who you are, or they'll see a nice, curated, branded experience of all the recent communications you've sent to them. Which one do you think is nicer for customers and prospects, right? Is that worth 5 minutes of your time so that when they walk in, it feels like they walked into a Louis Vuitton store instead of the back aisle of the Walmart that has been forgotten about? Okay. And nothing against a Walmart, like there's good deals there, but like there's clearly a different level of customer experience there. And it's so easy to achieve by just spending a couple minutes, 2 weeks apart essentially, to get those things approved by human on Apple's side. Doesn't cost you any money. It does not require you to have a trademark the way that a Bimmy does. And it's something that can be done essentially immediately. And while it only applies to basically the iPhone ecosystem and the iPad ecosystem for today, you can feel pretty confident that it will eventually come to the Mac. And like basically if there's a platform that Apple has Mail on and it's highly used, it will eventually get an update just like this, where this whole branded experience will matter. So the recognition, the know, like, and trust goes up dramatically. The brand experience is just so much nicer, and it adds some legitimacy, right? Because that is one extra step. And we're constantly talking about how do we separate ourselves from the pack as a sender? How do we improve our relationship with customers? The little things compound, right? An individual step might not be a make or break difference. But if when someone thinks about your brand, I think, every time I interact with Campaign Refinery, I see a pleasant brand, I understand who it's from, there's consistency in communication, I can get to the resources I need, they send me information that's useful. All these things, little things that collect, that can either be paper cuts or supplements towards your brand, right? Do they want to deteriorate it, or do we want to build it up? And so while, of course, the most important thing is sending content that people actually want and care about, growing your list of people that care about what you have to talk about in the first place, selling them something that is actually useful, giving them information that's actually useful, following through on your promises, all those are the most important thing for setting the stage for deliverability, no question. But all the little things matter too.
Absolutely. And I think this I love how you said like Louis Vuitton versus Walmart. And Louis Vuitton, you see them, they're not inside trashy strips of land and like strip malls. They're usually in higher higher net worth, more lucrative pieces of real estate, more upscale. That's the word I'm looking for. More upscale malls, right? And the rule that I thought of when you said that was, when you're in someone else's sandbox, you play by their rules. So Louis Vuitton, when they're going to an upscale mall, they're doing a deal with them, right? Now, I don't know jack about malls, but when you're in a mall with that level of luxury, and you see like, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Prada, all that stuff that I will never buy.
And usually the Apple Store, by the way, is usually
and the
in
Apple
that mix.
Store.
You're not seeing Cricket Wireless in there, is all I'm saying.
Oh, no. And sometimes not even Android, but I don't know what sort of turf wars go on behind closed doors in that mall. But when you're in a sandbox, you play by people's rules. And by that, I mean, we've both been doing this for a while. If you're adding your domain to Google Postmaster, that's a signal to them. At the very least, even though you might be doing terrible things with your domain, you're at least showing that you care enough inside their sandbox to even look at their rules. For Apple, this might be one of those little signals to say, yeah, they are a marketer, they are a business, they are sending to people, but they're a verified business. They're with us. We have a connection to them. Will that play a huge factor in your marketing efforts? It could. It might not. Most likely not. But it's another part of like playing in somebody else's sandbox and going by their rules. And I know as like entrepreneurs and business owners, we're like, we like to break rules. But yeah, sometimes you're standing on a chessboard that you don't even know you're on, and they could move a pawn and crush you. So, be careful. They're $1 trillion companies for a reason. So
multi-trillion. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they give you something and say, hey, like, this is a new feature, we would love to get more business owners to do this thing. I mean, Travis, you said that, and that's something that I'm going to add to my notes and make sure that that's something that gets done for one of my newsletters, because I know that a portion of that list is watching it, is reading it. There we go. Is reading the newsletter on their smartphones. And because it's a US-based newsletter, I can assume that a lot of those smartphones are going to be iPhones. I just can't. Rest of the world, they might be Android. But for me, I'm like, all right, if that's another thing to get my emails, my newsletters in front of the people's eyes that I want it to be in front of, then look, I'll pull that lever any day. Whatever gives me a slight advantage over everybody else that doesn't give enough of a crap to do this kind of stuff. That's a lever that's worth pulling.
Especially as we see an increase of on-device programmatic filtering, right? Because that's what's happening in the newer version of Apple Mail, where you have these brand experiences, is they're deciding what the mail is, regardless of what email provider it came through, about how to filter it, whether it's in your primary inbox, your promotions, your newsletters, all those kind of things are programmatically designed. And I can't help but think that someone who did what the overlord asked is more likely to get a preferential decision matrix on that to say, well, this sender, went through, our manual review process that someone from our team looked at with human eyes twice, once for the brand, once for the sending domain. That's probably a pretty good indicator that something here looks and smells legit when it comes to helping design what the biases are in the filtering system about who you're more likely to trust. So, will guarantee you primary inbox placement? No, because anyone who guarantees that is probably selling you something a little extra. They can improve the odds, they can improve the chances, but guaranteeing is not a thing, really. At least in my opinion. You can certainly improve it by leaps and bounds by doing things, but guaranteeing is not a thing. This is one step towards that, right? And again, all these things do add up over time and compound. So anyway, there's a little nugget. I know a lot of people aren't really aware of it because it's relatively new. But I think it's a great thing to do, at least as a minimum. If you can do BEMI, if you have a long-standing brand and the hurdles and cost and effort of doing BEMI makes sense, I highly encourage doing that as well. But I think doing both, is really the ideal. But doing this Apple Business Connect, if you have any users at all that are Apple users, it's really a great first step. So if you want to check out more information about Apple Business Connect, we have the full article down below. If you want to send from a provider who understands these things, that's what Campaign Refinery can help you do and tick all the rest of those boxes so you can compound the full meal deal. And if you are looking to grow and scale your newsletter, let them know, David. Let them know.
Yeah, you can go to wealthyinbox.news, and that's the newsletter that just talks about what investors are looking for inside of a digital asset and the lessons that I'm going through right now, because, I actually kind of like doing what I'm talking about as somebody that is building a newsletter to sell and exit from. So yeah, go check it out at wealthyinbox.news, and you'll see it in your inbox.
All right, so go sign up for Apple Business Connect, sign up for Wealthy Inbox, and hit us up if you want to send some real email. Talk to you soon.